Human settlement in the Las Vegas Valley goes back at least 10,000 years. At the time of European contact, the southern Paiutes were the inhabitants of the valley. In 1829, Mexican trader Antonio Armijo's party discovered the Las Vegas Valley, and they named it that, after the meadows that were at the heart of the valley. This part of land became part of the United States in 1848 with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. In 1855, Mormon missionaries moved to the valley and built what they called the Las Vegas Fort. They departed the valley 2 years later. And it wasn't until 1865 that ranching began at the site of the old Las Vegas Fort. The Las Vegas Valley remained a backwater until 1902, when the San Pedro, Los Angeles, and Salt Lake Railroad bought the Las Vegas Rancho. On May 15, 1905, the town of Las Vegas was founded by a railroad auction. The city prospered until 4 years later, in 1909, Clark County was created. Things were going pretty well until 1922, when a railroad strike led to an economic decline for Las Vegas. Things looked pretty bleak for the Las Vegas Valley until 1931, when three things sparked a revival of the city. One was a re-legalization of commercial gambling, the second was the legalization of quickie 6-week divorce, and the third was the construction of what is now known as Hoover Dam. Gambling in Las Vegas would eventually become big business, but it started pretty small. The first resort to be built on what would become the Strip was the El Rancho Vegas, which opened in 1941 on Highway 91. It was the first self-contained gambling destination in Las Vegas, with a hotel, entertainment, dining, and of course, gambling. And this set the model for future development. By 1952, people were calling the strip of roadway south of city limits the Las Vegas Strip. There were a half dozen resorts, including the Flamingo, Desert Inn, and Sands, by that time. For a variety of reasons, the legal casino business in Nevada attracted organized crime. There were really three reasons why the mob got interested in casinos: finance, marketing, and debt collection. Mainstream lenders did not want to lend money to the casinos in those days because it was just a risky business. The mob, who knew the business, was more than willing to do that. At that time, casinos couldn't market to players throughout the country, so they had to turn to the mob, who knew who the gamblers were, and get them to come to town on junkets. Finally, in this period, gaming debts were not legally collectible, so casinos who had affiliates in organized crime had a much easier path towards collecting debts that were owed to them. In the 1950s and 1960s, with the help of the mob, casinos in Las Vegas grew tremendously. In the late 1960s, business pressures and changes in the law led to corporate investment and ownership in the gaming industry, and by 1983, all the conditions that had been favorable to the mob were gone. In this period, Las Vegas became family-friendly as casinos started to cater to families and slot machine players. In the 1990s, corporate investment led to the complete reinvention of the Strip and of Las Vegas. The Las Vegas metro region grew from about 850,000 population in 1990 to almost 1.4 million in 2000. Since then, the population has grown even more to about 2.2 million people. Today, Las Vegas has begun diversifying far beyond tourism. Technology, healthcare, and sustainable energy are some big areas of growth, and UNLV is one of the biggest reasons why.